I want you to imagine a world without GPS tracking, a world without cell phones buzzing in your pocket, a world where your parents didn't know exactly where you were and they were perfectly okay with that. If you were a child in the 1950s, you don't have to imagine it. You lived it. We didn't have play dates arranged by secretaries. We had a screen door. And the moment that spring stretched out and that door slammed shut behind us, we were gone. We were free-range kids before that was even a term. Our playground wasn't a fenced-in rubber mat. It was the entire neighborhood. It was the woods down the street. It was the construction site 3 blocks over. We left the house at 8 a.m. and we didn't return until our stomachs growled. Today, they call it neglect. Back then, we called it childhood. But how did we survive without bike helmets? How did we navigate without Google Maps? And what was the one unwritten rule that every single kid in America followed or faced the consequences? Let's open the door and step back into the freedom of the 1950s. The day started early, and usually it started with a chore. Maybe making your bed, maybe taking out the trash. You contributed. But the real journey began at 8 a.m., the walk to school. Look at a school drop-off line today. It's a traffic jam of SUVs, parents watching their kids until they are safely inside the building. In 1955, you walked. It didn't matter if you were 6 years old or 16. You grabbed your metal lunchbox, maybe it was Hopalong Cassidy or Davy Crockett, and you hit the sidewalk. You met up with the pack. First, it was just you. Then you picked up Bobby from next door, then Susan from the corner. By the time you got to school, there were 12 of you. No adults, no crossing guards on the side streets, just us. And inside the classroom, it was different too. We started every single morning with 5 words, "I pledge allegiance to the flag." We stood up, we put our hands over our hearts, we meant it. There was a discipline in the air that seems to have vanished. You didn't talk back to the teacher. If you got in trouble at school, you prayed your parents didn't find out, because if they did, you got in trouble twice. But the school day was just the warm-up. The real magic happened when that final bell rang at 3 p.m. That's when the real education began. 3 p.m. The tie came off, the school shoes were swapped for kids or PF flyers, and Mom said the magic words, "Go outside and play. Don't come back until dinner." She didn't ask where we were going. She just wanted us out of her hair. And we had a radius. For the little ones, it was the end of the block. For the older kids, it was as far as your bicycle pedals could take you. We explored. We found creeks and tried to catch tadpoles. We built forts out of scrap wood and rusty nails we found in the garage. Did we get hurt? Of course we did. We scraped our knees, we got splinters, we fell out of trees. And you know what we did? We spit on it, rubbed some dirt on it, and kept playing. We didn't sue the city because the sidewalk was uneven. We learned to pick up our feet. And we definitely didn't carry water bottles. If you were thirsty, you found a house, any house, and you looked for the green garden hose. You turned that spigot and you drank that metallic, rubbery, freezing cold water right from the nozzle, and it was the best water you ever tasted. We didn't need organized sports leagues. We organized ourselves. We picked teams, we solved arguments. If someone was cheating, we dealt with it. We learned negotiation, leadership, and fairness, all before age 10. And we did it without a referee blowing a whistle. Do you remember the games? We didn't need batteries. We needed imagination. We played Red Rover, holding hands so tight our knuckles turned white, daring the other team to break through. We played marbles in the dirt, guarding our shooters with our lives. We played jacks on the concrete porch until our fingertips were raw. But the king of all games was kick the can. Usually played right as the sun was going down. The shadows were long, the tension was high. Hiding behind a bush, holding your breath,
waiting for that perfect moment to sprint for the can. The adrenaline rush was real. It wasn't a video game. It was physical. And yes, there was danger. We rode in the back of pickup trucks. We rode bikes without helmets. We played with chemistry sets that actually had chemicals in them. Today, people look back and say, it's a miracle we survived. But maybe that's why we did survive. We learned respect for danger. We learned our limits by testing them, not by reading about them in a safety manual. We were tough, but we weren't wild animals, because even though our parents weren't watching, the village was. You see, we had free range, but we weren't invisible. If you misbehaved 3 blocks away, Mrs. Miller was watching from her porch, and she wouldn't call the police, she would call your mother. And by the time you got home, your mom already knew exactly what you did. That was the village. The neighbors looked out for us, and they corrected us. You respected every adult on the block, not just your own parents. And then it happened. The signal. It wasn't a text message. It wasn't a phone call. It was the streetlights. Click. The moment those amber lights buzzed on, the neighborhood changed instantly. The game stopped. The bikes turned around. Every child in America knew you have 5 minutes to get through that front door. If you were late, there were no timeouts. There was a look from Dad over the top of his newspaper, and that look was worse than any punishment. Dinner was at the table. No TV, no phones. We ate what Mom cooked. If it was liver and onions, you ate liver and onions. You stayed at the table until your plate was clean. Starving children in Europe was a phrase we all heard. But we talked. We shared our day. We were a family unit. The evenings were quiet in a way that doesn't exist anymore. We had one TV. It had 3 channels. And if Dad wanted to watch the news, we all watched the news. Or maybe we listened to the radio, or we read comic books until our eyes got heavy. There was no FOMO, fear of missing out, because we knew everyone else was doing the exact same thing. The house settled down, the doors were locked, sometimes, and we slept the sleep of the exhausted. We had run, climbed, fought, and laughed for 12 straight hours. We didn't have much money. We didn't have much stuff. But looking back, don't you feel like we had everything? They say you can never go home again. The neighborhoods have changed, the fences have gone up, the screens have taken over. But they can't take the memories. I want to know your story. What was the street game you played the most? Was it kick the can, stickball? And what happened if you came home after the streetlights came on? Tell me in the comments below. Let's keep the spirit of that neighborhood alive right here. Don't forget to subscribe for more trips down memory lane. We'll see you when the streetlights come on.